We called for aid in the galaxy, only Earth came. They trusted that advanced civilizations would protect balance and peace. For many cycles, that belief felt true. Then the coalition came. They did not arrive with words or warnings. Their ships burned through the edge of the system and settled into orbit like dark scars across the stars. At first, the people of Lyrian thought it was a mistake. Perhaps the ships were explorers. Perhaps they were traders who had lost their way. That hope died quickly. The first city was erased in a single day. Energy beams tore through its shields as if they were paper. Towers melted. Streets cracked open. Millions were gone before the sun set. No demand was made. No terms were offered. The coalition did not conquer for land or rule. They came for resources, and Lyrian was in the way. Panic spread faster than any broadcast. People fled to shelters that were never meant for war. Families were separated. Leaders argued while the skies burned. The defense fleet of Lyrian was small, built for patrol and pride, not survival. Their ships tried to engage and were destroyed in minutes. Council Speaker Alara watched the reports from the central chamber. She had trained her whole life for diplomacy, not extinction. Her hands shook as she listened to the voices of commanders pleading for orders that would not save them. Every choice felt like a lie. The council met in silence. No one spoke at first. The truth was clear to all of them. Lyrian could not win. They could not even slow the coalition for long. Their shields were failing. Their worlds were being mapped and marked for harvest. Someone finally said the words that had been hanging in the air. Send a distress call. The idea was not new. Ancient protocols allowed any world facing annihilation to broadcast a plea across the known galaxy. The call would be received by thousands of systems. Great powers, trade unions, and protector fleets would all hear it. In theory, someone would answer. But theory had a weakness. Aid was never free. Many worlds had learned that asking for help meant surrendering freedom later. Others had learned that no one came at all. Alara knew this. Still, she gave the order. The signal was sent on every frequency allowed by galactic law. It carried no threat, no demand, only truth. Lyrian was under attack. Its people were dying. They asked for help, for protection, for any chance to survive. The message traveled faster than light, spreading outward like a final breath. Then they waited. Days passed. The coalition continued its advance. Another city fell, then another. Evacuation ships were hunted down and destroyed. The people began to understand that shelters were only places to die more slowly. The council checked the response logs constantly. The systems confirmed delivery. The call had been received. It had been acknowledged, but no ships came. Some replies arrived, cold and distant. Automated notices explained that their forces were committed elsewhere. Others warned that involvement would violate treaties. A few powerful worlds did not reply at all. The silence hurt more than the refusals. Among the people, belief began to crack. Children asked why the stars were quiet. Elders had no answers. Faith in the galaxy faded with each explosion in the sky. Alara walked through one of the lower shelters, surrounded by guards who looked just as afraid as the civilians. She listened as people whispered her name, not with anger but with pleading. They did not blame her yet. That almost made it worse. She returned to the council chamber to find fewer seats filled. Some council members had died. Others had gone to be with their families, choosing love over duty at the end. The military commanders gave their final assessment. Lyrian had less than 2 weeks before total collapse. The coalition was already moving toward the planetary core facilities. Once those were taken, the world would be stripped clean. Someone suggested surrender. No one answered them. Surrender meant survival for a few, maybe. It also meant slavery, relocation, or slow death. The coalition was not known for mercy. They took what they wanted and erased the rest. The council voted to keep fighting, even if it was only to buy time. The distress call continued to repeat. Still, no one came. As hope drained away, something else took its place: anger. Not at the coalition alone, but at the galaxy that had built rules and alliances and then looked away when they were tested. Alara stood before the council one last time. Her voice was calm, but it carried weight. "If this is the end," she said, "then let the galaxy remember that," Lyrian asked. "Let history show that we did not die quietly." The signal was boosted with the last of their remaining power. It reached farther, touching regions of space that Lyrian had never traded with, never spoken to. It crossed borders that most civilizations avoided. Far away in the deep black between known powers, the message arrived somewhere unexpected. On Lyrian, they did not know that. All they knew was that the skies were still burning, the stars were still silent, and the galaxy they trusted had turned away. And so they prepared to face extinction alone, unaware that one world had finally heard them, and that world was watching, listening, and deciding whether to answer weeks past after Lyrian's final distress call, and the people had almost given up. Fires still burned where cities once stood, and the smell of smoke and metal hung in the air. Survivors moved like shadows, carrying what they could, avoiding coalition patrols that still scoured the streets. The council had shrunk to a handful of members, with Alara at the center, trying to keep what was left of the government together. They were tired, broken, and afraid. Then one day, without warning, a strange signal appeared at the edge of their system. It was unlike anything they had seen before. It was not cold or official like the messages from distant powers. It was direct, almost human in tone, almost as if it was speaking to them. The council gathered in the chamber to analyze it. The screens flickered, showing strange shapes in space, ships moving with impossible speed, yet steady and precise. "What is that?" one of the commanders asked, his voice trembling. His name was Eric. He had lost his family in the first wave of attacks and now lived only for the defense of what little remained. He stared at the images, unable to believe them. The ships were huge, much bigger than anything Lyrian had, and they seemed alive. They moved not like machines, but like hunters. "I don't know," Alara said, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. "It's not any known galactic fleet. It doesn't match any trade convoy or protectorate pattern, but they are coming toward us." "Coming?" asked Leora, a young council member, barely out of adolescence, her eyes wide with fear. "To help us," Alara shook her head. "I don't know, it could be a trap. The coalition could have sent something new. We don't know their intentions." Even as she spoke, the ships in the sky began to appear. Huge shadows against the stars, moving faster than anything the coalition had. The people of Lyrian looked up in awe and terror. Some prayed, some screamed, some ran. Alara stayed still, watching. Then the first human ship entered the system. It was unlike any Lyrian vessel, sharp-edged and intimidating, but with an elegance that spoke of both power and experience. And behind it, more ships appeared, hundreds of them. It was a fleet, but not one built for subtlety or caution. It was a fleet built to end threats. "Humans," whispered Eric. He had heard legends. Humanity was a dangerous species, a deathworlder people, survivors of a harsh and violent planet. They were not known for diplomacy. They were known for their efficiency, their ability to survive anywhere, and for their complete disregard for weakness. Many feared them, even admired them from afar. But to have them arrive now, in response to a plea that no one else had heard, was unimaginable. The human ships did not announce themselves. They did not demand surrender. They simply entered orbit and began scanning. Sensors revealed them to be armed, yes, but also organized, disciplined. They moved like predators, aware of every detail. The coalition forces took notice immediately. Their weapons began to fire, but the humans responded with swiftness that made the Lyrian commanders gasp. On the ground, the human landing party descended. Captain John Carter led the team, a tall, solid man with a calm but imposing presence. Beside him were Lisa Brown, an engineer whose hands seemed always ready to fix or dismantle anything, and Ethan Cole, the pilot who had flown through storms no other human would dare. They moved with confidence, speaking in a language that Lyrian could not fully understand but whose meaning was clear. "We are here, and we will not fail." The coalition attacked the landing teams immediately. Energy blasts tore across the open fields, but the humans advanced as if nothing could harm them. They carried strange weapons, devices that burned through armor and shields alike. Lyrian soldiers watched in disbelief as these newcomers, strangers from a planet thought too small and too weak to matter, faced death without hesitation. Alara organized what was left of the defense. She sent small squads to assist the humans, although she did so reluctantly. These people were strangers, dangerous strangers, but they were the only chance for survival. She met John Carter personally, walking through a ruined district to greet him. The human looked at her calmly, studying the city, the destruction, and finally at her. "We heard the call," he said simply. No grand speech, no promises, just a statement. "We came." Alara swallowed. You came for us?" Her voice shook. She had prepared herself for disappointment, betrayal, or destruction, but not this. The humans were here, they had come. Unlike every other civilization, unlike every other fleet that had ignored their signals, they had come. John Carter smiled faintly. Not for charity. We came because someone should come. Someone should answer when a world cries out. That's what we do. He did not explain further. He did not need to. The message was clear. Humanity, from the harshest, deadliest world, had heard the plea that no one else had, and they had come. The coalition, seeing these new forces, became aggressive. They had never faced humans before. They assumed fear would follow, that Lyrian would flee or surrender. They were wrong. John Carter's team advanced like hunters, pushing back the coalition patrols with precision and ferocity. The humans' movements were unpredictable, yet coordinated. They seemed to anticipate attacks before they happened. Lyra, a Lyrian commander, watched from her ship, her heart racing. She had trained for months, but humans moved in ways that made training meaningless. One human operative, Maria Lopez, leaped into the midst of an attacking squad and disarmed them with moves no Lyrian soldier could have imagined. Another, Alex Turner, stood in open fire, returning shots with uncanny accuracy. The humans seemed fearless, their presence radiating strength and confidence that the Lyrian people had never known. Alara followed the battle from the council chamber. She could not believe what she was seeing. The humans were not asking for permission. They were acting as if Lyrian's survival was their own concern. They were willing to die for a world that was not theirs, fighting against an enemy that had seemed invincible. On the streets, civilians began to notice the change. Fear did not disappear, but hope returned. People emerged from shelters to assist, carrying supplies, relaying messages, helping where they could. Children, who had hidden for weeks, watched from the rooftops as humans and Lyrian fighters pushed the coalition back. Alara saw faces light up with disbelief and gratitude. She could see the spark of life returning to her people. The coalition forces, for the first time, began to falter. Their attacks became disorganized, hesitant. Their commanders were unsure how to respond to humans who did not follow expected patterns. The humans' tactics were brutal, efficient, and effective. Lyrian forces started to hold ground where they had only fled before. John Carter's team moved deeper into the city. Ethan Cole guided civilians to safety, while Lisa Brown repaired damaged defenses on the fly. They were a small group in appearance, but their impact was enormous. They turned the tide in ways that Lyrian had not dared imagine. Alara finally spoke to John privately. "Why us? Why come here when everyone else ignored our pleas?" John looked at the burning city beyond the window. "We remember what it's like to be alone, to call for help and hear nothing. We don't ignore calls like this. Someone has to answer. We choose to be that someone." There was a quiet dignity in his words. Alara realized that humanity's motivations were not based on treaties, wealth, or politics. They were based on survival, experience, and a strange sense of responsibility. They had faced death in their own world and refused to let it happen to others if they could stop it. As the battle continued, humans and Lyrian soldiers fought together, clearing streets, protecting civilians, and defending key positions. The humans' willingness to take risk, their disregard for personal safety, and their uncanny skill began to inspire Lyrian soldiers. They learned quickly, picking up tactics, understanding movement, and even daring maneuvers they would have never tried before. Hours turned into days. Coalition forces retreated only to return, trying to regroup. Each time the humans met them with equal force. The city became a battlefield, but it was a battlefield filled with hope rather than despair. Survivors moved with purpose. Families found each other in shelters. The council regained some confidence in their ability to organize. And all the while, Alara watched. She began to understand something fundamental about humanity. They were not just warriors. They were teachers, examples, reminders of what survival meant. Their arrival had shifted not just the course of the war, but the very soul of Lyrian. For the first time in weeks, she felt something she had not allowed herself to feel: hope. As night fell over the city, the streets quieted, but the fires still burned. Humans patrolled tirelessly, their presence reassuring even as destruction lingered. Citizens began whispering stories, simple stories of humans moving like shadows, of people who did not flinch, who did not fear, who answered a call that no one else had. Alara returned to the council chamber once more. She sat, exhausted, but her mind was alive with questions. The humans were here, yes, but what would they do next? Would they stay? Could they save the planet entirely? She did not know. But for the first time, she could imagine a future beyond the ruins. In the quiet hours, John Carter walked through a street filled with rubble. He spoke to no one but observed everything. A child waved at him, a small gesture of trust, and he nodded. Lisa Brown helped a family clear a path through debris, while Ethan Cole checked sensor readings, always alert. Their actions were simple yet profound. They were not here for glory or recognition. They were here because they believed it was the right thing to do. As the first hints of dawn appeared, the skyline of Lyrian was scarred but alive. The coalition had been pushed back for now, though they would return. But for the people of Lyrian, for Alara and the Council, and for the soldiers who survived, something had changed. The galaxy had ignored their cries, the universe had turned its face, but one world, harsh and unforgiving, had come. And that was enough for now to believe that survival was possible. And far beyond the system, the humans watched, waiting, calculating, and preparing. They had arrived, yes, but this was only the beginning. The galaxy might have been silent, but humanity's answer had arrived, and it would not go away easily. The coalition did not wait. As soon as the humans had established a foothold in the city, the alien ships returned with more intensity. Energy beams streaked across the sky, striking buildings, streets, and any remaining defenses. The humans, however, did not flinch. They moved with calm determination, as if the chaos around them was part of a plan only they could see. John Carter led the counterattack. He had studied the coalition's behavior from sensor data and reports, and he understood that they relied on predictable formations. The humans did not follow rules. They split into small groups, striking from unexpected directions, disappearing behind rubble, then reappearing where the coalition thought they were safe. Their tactics were brutal, efficient, and terrifying to witness. Lyrian soldiers, used to careful strategy, could only stare and try to follow. Maria Lopez, one of the humans on the ground, leaped across a ruined street, dodging a laser blast. She fired her weapon, and a squad of coalition soldiers dropped before they even knew she was there. Beside her, Alex Turner advanced through the open, standing tall in the face of fire. He did not hide, did not retreat. Each shot he returned was deadly accurate, each move precise. Lyrian fighters watched in awe and fear. They had never seen anyone fight like this. In the council chamber, Alara and her few remaining advisors tracked the battle on the screens. "They're incredible," whispered Leora, her voice trembling. "They don't run, they don't hide, they just keep going." Alara nodded. She had always known humanity was tough, had heard stories, but seeing it firsthand changed everything. These people were something else entirely. On the ground, the humans began to train the Lyrian soldiers as they fought. It was not formal. It was survival-based learning. "Move with me," John Carter shouted, leading a group through a series of alleys, taking cover behind ruined walls, firing, moving, firing again. The Lyrian soldiers copied, some clumsily, but they improved. Their morale rose. Hope, long buried, sparked again. People who had hidden for days began to step forward, carrying supplies, assisting the wounded, passing messages. The humans inspired action simply by being themselves. Ethan Cole flew low in a fast skimmer, targeting coalition artillery positions. His movements were daring, almost reckless, but effective. Each strike weakened the coalition's grip on the city. Civilians began to notice the shift. The streets, once filled with screams and smoke, now had pockets of resistance. They dared to move, to salvage, to care. Children peeked from windows, watching the humans as if they were gods of war. Lisa Brown moved among the human squads, repairing weapons and machines on the fly. She did not wait for orders. A broken turret? She fixed it in minutes. A power line down. She rerouted it without hesitation. Lyrian engineers followed her, learning fast, trying to keep up. It was a strange combination. Humans teaching, fighting, surviving, and transforming the Lyrian defense in real time. As the battle stretched through the day and into the night, the coalition realized they were facing something entirely unexpected. Their attacks became cautious, hesitant. Commanders tried to regroup, but every tactic they had used before was neutralized by the humans' unpredictability. The coalition had not met opponents like this, opponents willing to risk everything without fear. On the front line, Maria Lopez noticed a squad of coalition soldiers flanking a group of civilians. She sprinted across the open field, dodging energy blasts, diving behind cover when needed, and reached the civilians in time. She fired at the soldiers one by one, precise and merciless. The civilians ran, and Maria moved back to rejoin her team, unharmed as if the chaos did not touch her. Lyrian soldiers saw her courage and began to act bolder. Bravery spread like a wildfire. Alara could hardly believe the change she was witnessing. Where despair had ruled, strategy and hope now emerged. Humans did not just fight, they reshaped the battlefield. They inspired, commanded, and protected in ways Lyrian had never imagined. For the first time, she felt confident that survival was possible. John Carter gathered his team during a brief pause in the fighting. "We take the central command tower next," he said. "It's heavily guarded, but it's the heart of their operation. If we can cut them off there, the rest will falter." Lisa Brown nodded, checking her tools, while Ethan Cole checked sensor readings for incoming threats. Maria Lopez and Alex Turner prepared their gear. Each human moved calmly, as if fear was a foreign concept. The attack on the command tower was daring. Humans and Lyrian soldiers moved together, blending skills. John led a direct assault from the front, drawing attention, while Maria and Alex circled around, taking out defenses. Lyrian soldiers, guided by human strategy, created diversions, setting traps and covering flanks. It was chaotic but coordinated. Human leadership turned chaos into a weapon. Inside the tower, the coalition commanders were unprepared. They had underestimated the humans, assuming their tactics were predictable. They were wrong. John Carter entered the tower, bypassing security measures and disabling key systems with Lisa's assistance. Within minutes, the tower's defenses faltered, giving humans and Lyrian soldiers the upper hand outside. Explosions and gunfire echoed, but the humans advanced without hesitation. The battle lasted for hours. Street by street, building by building, humans and Lyrian fighters pushed the coalition back. The aliens, though numerous and powerful, could not withstand the combination of human ferocity, strategy, and Lyrian resolve. The city, once a symbol of despair, now became a symbol of resistance. The coalition realized they had misjudged both the humans and the Lyrian people. Fear began to creep into their ranks. On the streets, civilians began to participate more actively. They brought water, supplies, and ammunition. They helped the wounded, guided soldiers through rubble, and even acted as lookouts. The humans encouraged them, never treating them as helpless, always as participants. Lyrian citizens felt their power returning, small but significant. Their belief in survival grew with each passing hour. As the first light of morning appeared, the coalition began to retreat. Humans and Lyrian soldiers had inflicted serious damage. The streets were littered with debris, but the city still stood. The humans did not celebrate. They continued to patrol, repair defenses, and prepare for the next strike. They were relentless, as if the battle had only just begun. Lyrian soldiers, exhausted but alive, followed their lead. Alara moved through the council chamber, observing reports from the front. She realized humanity's impact was not just physical, it was psychological. The coalition had underestimated them, and the galaxy had underestimated them. The humans were a force unlike any other, combining skill, fearlessness, and a strange, unbreakable determination. They had changed the course of the war, and they had changed Lyrian itself. John Carter called a brief meeting with Lyrian commanders. "We won a battle," he said, "not the war. The coalition will return and they will be stronger. We have to be ready." Alara nodded, understanding the truth in his words. Humans did not promise safety, only action. They did not offer magic, only strategy and courage. Ethan Cole flew reconnaissance missions, mapping coalition movements. Lisa Brown repaired defenses and machinery wherever needed. Maria Lopez and Alex Turner continued frontline operations, protecting civilians and guiding Lyrian soldiers. Their actions were simple but transformative. Humans were not just fighters, they were catalysts. They turned hopelessness into courage, fear into strength. The coalition, shaken by the resilience they faced, began to reconsider their approach. Their tactics became cautious, defensive, hesitant. They had never encountered humans before, and their unpredictability made planning nearly impossible. Every attack was countered with precision, every ambush neutralized. The humans had become the hunters and the coalition the hunted. That night, as the city rested in uneasy silence, Alara walked among the survivors. She saw faces she had not seen in weeks. Children slept safely under blankets, families reunited in small shelters. Lyrian soldiers patched their wounds, proud of their achievements, inspired by humans they barely understood. Hope, fragile but growing, spread across the city. John Carter observed the city from a high vantage point. He spoke quietly to his team. "We did good today, but the war is far from over. They will return. We need to prepare for everything." Lisa nodded, checking weapons and equipment. Ethan scanned the horizon. Maria and Alex shared a quiet glance. They were tired, but they were ready. Alara understood that humans had given them more than victories. They had given them belief. The city, though scarred and battered, was alive. The people, though weary, were unbroken. Humans had come for a world that was not theirs and had shown what it meant to fight without hesitation, to inspire courage through action, and to refuse to bow to fear. And somewhere in the dark reaches of space, other humans watched and calculated, always ready. Humanity had arrived, not just to fight, but to teach, to lead, and to survive. The Coalition had underestimated them, Lyrian had doubted them, and the galaxy had ignored them. But now they were here and everything had changed. The night passed with humans patrolling and protecting. The Coalition forces, regrouping elsewhere, began to rethink their strategy. The humans had proven something simple and undeniable. When they came, no one could ignore them. They were the Deathworlders, the relentless survivors, the unexpected saviors. And Lyrian, for the first time in weeks, began to believe that survival was not only possible. It was inevitable if they fought alongside humanity. The city of Lyrian was alive with the sounds of preparation. Humans and Lyrian soldiers moved together, repairing defenses, securing shelters, and clearing rubble from the streets. Smoke still rose from the ruins, and the smell of scorched metal lingered. Civilians whispered of the humans' courage and skill, of how they had changed the tide of battle. But the humans themselves were not celebrating. They knew the war was far from over, and that every victory had its cost. John Carter gathered his team in a quiet room of the council building. The walls were cracked, dust falling from the ceiling, and the windows shattered, but the humans did not seem to notice. They studied reports and sensor readings, planning their next move. Lisa Brown checked equipment and weapons, while Ethan Cole reviewed reconnaissance data. Maria Lopez and Alex Turner prepared to move out again, ready to defend civilians wherever they were needed. "We won the streets," John said, his voice calm, measured, "but the Coalition will strike harder. They will come with more ships, more soldiers, and more firepower. We need to make every position defensible and prepare for losses. There is no room for hesitation." Alara listened, her heart heavy but attentive. She had come to rely on John's judgment, but she had not fully understood the weight of what it meant to fight alongside humans. These people were not only fearless, they accepted risk that Lyrian soldiers could not imagine. They moved through danger as if it were a path they had walked many times before, and they expected everyone around them to keep pace. The first casualty came soon. A small human team, sent to secure a partially destroyed district, encountered Coalition patrols. Maria Lopez was injured by an energy blast that struck her arm, burning through armor. Alex Turner covered her as she fell to the ground, dragging her behind a wall for safety. The Lyrian soldiers nearby froze, unsure what to do. Maria's voice, calm but firm, guided them. "Cover the flanks," she shouted. "Don't wait, move!" They followed her orders, moving with purpose for the first time in weeks. Maria survived, but the injury slowed her, reminding everyone that even humans were not invincible. John Carter witnessed this from a nearby observation point. He felt a familiar ache in his chest, the cost of survival. Each human injury, each loss, weighed on him, not because he doubted victory, but because he understood the stakes. Humans fought not only to win, but because they remembered what it was like to be left alone. They had faced extinction on their own world before. They would not let that happen to another, but they knew every action came with sacrifice. On the ground, civilians assisted in any way they could. They carried supplies, guided soldiers through destroyed streets, and tended to the wounded. The humans encouraged them, showing no condescension, only respect. It was exhausting work, but it built trust. People who had once hidden in fear now moved boldly, their morale rising despite the danger. Lyra, the Lyrian commander, approached John after observing a skirmish. She had watched his team fight, protect, and instruct simultaneously. "Why do you risk so much?" she asked. "You are not from this world. You could choose to leave. Why stay?" John looked at her, studying the destruction, the people, the ruined streets. He did not answer immediately. His eyes softened, and he spoke with quiet conviction. "We stay because someone should. Because when a world cries out, we answer. That is all we need to do. The coalition did not give them much time to rest. New ships entered the system, more powerful than the last. Their energy beams tore through the upper districts of the city, collapsing buildings and cutting power. Civilians screamed and scattered. Humans responded immediately. Ethan Cole piloted his skimmer low through the chaos, taking out artillery positions and guiding civilians to safe zones. Lisa Brown repaired damaged energy shields on buildings under fire, moving with calm precision. John Carter led teams into the streets, facing the enemy directly, fighting alongside Lyrian soldiers. The city became a battlefield again, but it was organized chaos, controlled and lethal. As the day wore on, the cost became apparent. Human soldiers were injured or exhausted. Some Lyrian units were lost in combat, despite their newfound courage. Alara observed the damage with a heavy heart. She realized that survival came with pain and that the humans, despite their skill, were not invulnerable. She saw how each loss affected John and his team, how it strengthened their resolve while also marking them with grief. In one street, Maria Lopez moved with a group of Lyrian soldiers to defend a critical junction. Energy blasts tore through the walls nearby, scattering debris. A Lyrian soldier panicked, frozen in fear. Maria grabbed his arm and pulled him behind cover, shouting instructions. "Stay low, keep your head down, follow me." The soldier obeyed, inspired by her calm determination. Together they held the position, but the price was clear. Buildings were destroyed, civilians injured, and the coalition remained relentless. John Carter and his team regrouped after another battle. They treated injuries, repaired equipment, and prepared for the next engagement. Each action, while simple, carried weight. The humans did not complain. They did not fear death. They acted because it was necessary. Alara watched them, understanding something fundamental. Humanity's strength was not only in their skill, but in their willingness to bear the cost for others. That night, as the city tried to recover, John called a meeting with Alara. She had questions she had avoided asking directly. "Why do you come for us?" she asked again. "Why risk everything for a world you do not know?" John's gaze was steady. "Because someone should," he replied. "Because leaving you to die is not an option. We know what it is to be alone. We know what it is to be ignored. We do not turn away when someone calls for help. It is not charity. It is a promise we make to ourselves." Alara nodded, realizing the truth in his words. Humans did not act out of duty or orders. They acted because they believed survival mattered. They acted because they remembered fear and wanted to prevent it in others. The city, scarred as it was, had a chance because these strangers from a harsh world had chosen to fight. The next day brought another wave of attacks. The coalition had learned to anticipate some human tactics, but underestimated their creativity. John Carter's teams moved through streets, clearing patrols, rescuing civilians, and disabling weapons. Lisa Brown repaired shields and vehicles on the move. Ethan Cole coordinated skimmers to cut off supply lines. Maria Lopez and Alex Turner protected critical points, guiding Lyrian soldiers through dangerous areas. Each action was small, but combined, they turned the tide. Casualties mounted. Humans were hurt, Lyrian soldiers fell, and civilians were not immune. Alara saw the reality of war. Victory demanded sacrifice. Yet even in the chaos, she noticed something remarkable. Humans treated their wounded with care, tending to them quickly without complaint. They inspired Lyrian soldiers to do the same. Survival was possible, but it required unity and courage. A particularly fierce battle erupted near the central district. Coalition forces tried to overrun a defensive line. John Carter led a counterattack, moving quickly to support faltering Lyrian units. Maria Lopez fought beside him, shielding civilians caught in the crossfire. Alex Turner cleared paths for retreating soldiers, and Lisa Brown repaired turrets while under fire. Ethan Cole swooped low with his skimmer, drawing fire away from humans and Lyrian fighters. The city shook with explosions, smoke, and fire, yet the humans advanced steadily. Every move, every decision carried both risk and precision. Alara, watching the battle from above, realized the humans' actions were not only strategic, but also a lesson. They taught Lyrian soldiers courage, initiative, and adaptability. Where once fear had frozen them, now they moved with purpose. They understood that survival demanded action, that hesitation meant death, and that hope required risk. The fighting lasted for hours. The coalition tried to regroup, but humans had anticipated every maneuver. Their unpredictability, combined with skill and determination, made them nearly unstoppable. Lyrian soldiers learned quickly, inspired by example, and civilians gained courage from observing humans protect them at any cost. By the end of the day, the city was battered but not broken. Coalition forces had retreated, but the price was heavy. Buildings were destroyed, streets littered with debris, and many were injured. Human soldiers were exhausted and hurt. Lyrian soldiers were tired but more capable than before, and civilians were scarred but alive. Alara realized that survival came with cost, and she understood the true weight of what humans brought to her world. That night, John Carter gathered his team. They tended to wounds, repaired equipment, and prepared for the next engagement. They did not complain, and they did not fear what was to come. Each understood that their presence had changed the course of the war, but that each day demanded sacrifice. Humans acted not for glory or recognition, but because survival was a responsibility, and because someone had to bear the burden when others could not. Alara walked through the city streets afterward. She saw the cost of the battle in every scarred wall, every burned street, every injured civilian. Yet she also saw courage, resilience, and hope. Humans had taught her people more than tactics. They had shown them the meaning of endurance, selflessness, and strength. For the first time, she felt that survival was truly possible, even against overwhelming odds. As dawn broke over Lyrian, humans and Lyrian soldiers alike prepared for the next wave. The coalition would return, stronger and more determined, but humans were ready. They had brought not only skill and courage, but also a lesson. Survival demanded sacrifice, hope required risk, and the cost of doing nothing was far greater than the cost of acting. And in that understanding, Lyrian began to believe that they could survive, not because the galaxy cared, but because humanity had chosen to care. The coalition forces were regrouping. Their ships, battered from the previous battles, hovered at the edge of the system. They sent scouts and minor patrols, testing the defenses of Lyrian. John Carter and his human teams had anticipated this. They were ready, having fortified positions, repaired weapons, and trained Lyrian soldiers in ways the aliens could not predict. The humans moved like a single unit, calm, disciplined, and deadly. Alara walked among the surviving civilians. She saw the fear still in their eyes, but she also saw hope. Children who had once hidden in shelters now ran through cleared streets, laughing softly. Families rebuilt their homes as best they could, carrying supplies and water to those in need. The humans had given them more than protection. They had given them courage, the belief that survival was possible even when the odds seemed impossible. John Carter called a meeting with his lieutenants. Maria Lopez, Alex Turner, Lisa Brown, and Ethan Cole joined him. Their faces were tired, marked by the battles they had fought, but their eyes were alert and focused. John spread out the battle maps across a table. "They will hit hard," he said. "This is their last chance to take the city before we push them back completely. We must defend every street, every building. We cannot allow them to regroup again." Lyra, the Lyrian commander, watched from the side. She had learned much from the humans over the past weeks. Their courage and strategy had changed her people. She had even begun to adopt some of their methods: quick movement, ambushes, and unexpected attacks. The Lyrian forces, once timid and hesitant, now acted with purpose. She felt a strange mixture of awe and relief. Humans were unlike anything she had ever known. The first wave of the final attack came at dawn. Coalition ships fired into the city, energy beams tearing apart structures that had just been rebuilt. Humans and Lyrian soldiers advanced simultaneously, protecting civilians and holding key points. John Carter moved quickly through the streets, his presence steadying the fighters around him. Maria Lopez led a squad through an alley, intercepting coalition patrols before they could reach civilians. Alex Turner took a high vantage point, picking off enemies with precise shots, while Lisa Brown repaired defenses as bullets and energy blasts tore past her. Ethan Cole flew overhead in a skimmer, targeting enemy artillery and supply lines. Each human action was decisive, effective, and calculated. The coalition expected fear. They expected hesitation. Instead, they found humans advancing fearlessly, Lyrian soldiers fighting with new skill, and civilians helping where they could. Every attack they launched was countered with precision. The humans did not act recklessly. They acted with discipline and understanding of the battlefield, and Lyrian forces learned quickly to emulate them. The coalition began to falter. Alara observed the battle from the council chamber. She had seen humans fight before, but this was different. The scale of their coordination, the calmness in chaos, and the way they inspired those around them, it was beyond anything she had imagined. She realized that humanity's presence had not only saved lives but had transformed her people. They would not be the same again. Hours passed, and the city endured wave after wave of attacks. Humans and Lyrian forces continued to push the coalition back. Each time a coalition patrol tried to regroup, they were met with humans leading counterattacks, striking from unexpected directions. The city became a fortress of movement and strategy. Coalition commanders grew desperate. They had underestimated not only the humans' strength, but also their creativity and determination. Every loss demoralized them further. John Carter coordinated his forces, moving from street to street, guiding Lyrian soldiers and protecting civilians. "Hold your ground," he shouted to a group of soldiers near a partially destroyed district. "Don't give them an inch," his calm voice cut through the chaos. Maria Lopez led a rescue, saving civilians trapped by collapsing buildings, while Alex Turner covered them with precise attacks. Lisa Brown repaired a damaged shield generator under fire, keeping a critical street safe. Ethan Cole disabled coalition artillery that threatened the city's center. Each action carried risk, but each succeeded. Humans were relentless, and the coalition began to retreat in disorder. Alara approached John during a pause in the battle. "We might actually survive this," she said softly. "Because of you, because of your people." John looked at her, serious and tired. "We didn't do it alone. Your people fought, learned, and acted. Humans just showed them how. Survival is about everyone doing their part, not just us." Alara nodded, understanding the truth in his words. Humanity had provided strength and guidance, but Lyrian's people had chosen to fight alongside them. The victory was shared. As the day wore on, coalition forces continued to fall back. Humans pursued with care, striking only when necessary to prevent regrouping. They did not destroy indiscriminately. Their goal was to secure the city and its people, not to spread chaos further. Lyrian soldiers, inspired and trained, moved with confidence. They had survived attacks that once would have destroyed them, and they had learned to fight, defend, and endure. By nightfall, the coalition fleet had retreated beyond the system's edge. The city was scarred but standing. Buildings were damaged, streets littered with debris, but the people of Lyrian were alive. The humans, despite exhaustion and injury, continued to patrol, repair defenses, and assist civilians. John Carter and his team understood that survival was not a single battle, but a series of actions, small and large, each one critical to keep hope alive. Alara walked through the city streets. She saw families reunited, children playing cautiously among the rubble and citizens helping one another. Humans moved among them, quiet but present, ensuring safety and inspiring courage. Lyrian soldiers trained by the humans now led patrols, keeping watch and maintaining order. The transformation was clear. The city had survived, not only because humans fought for them, but because they taught them to survive themselves. The next day brought news across the system. Distant galactic powers had noticed the humans' intervention. Fleets and diplomats began arriving, but too late to challenge the humans' dominance in the battle. Alara received envoys, curious, cautious, and surprised. The galaxy had expected Lyrian to fall, and yet here it stood, defended by humans no one had taken seriously before. Whispers spread of the Deathworlders who answered cries for help, where others turned away. John Carter met with Alara and the council to discuss next steps. "We've secured the city for now," he said. "The coalition may return, but we've bought time. Your people are stronger now. They can hold what we leave behind." Lisa Brown checked equipment. Maria Lopez spoke quietly to civilians about safety. Alex Turner oversaw patrols, and Ethan Cole scanned the skies for threats. The humans' presence was not only protective but strategic, ensuring Lyrian's people could continue to survive after their departure. Alara realized that the humans' actions had consequences beyond immediate survival. They had changed how Lyrians saw themselves. No longer were they passive, waiting for help. They had learned to fight, defend, and endure. They had been taught that survival was not a gift to be given, but a skill to be learned. Humanity had arrived not only to save them, but to empower them. As humans prepared to leave the system, John Carter spoke to Alara privately. "We can't stay forever," he said. "But your people now know what it means to survive. They know courage, strategy, and hope. That's enough to carry forward." Alara nodded, understanding that their departure would not leave her people helpless. The lessons humans had provided, the courage they inspired, and the survival skills they taught would endure. The city of Lyrian slowly returned to life. Streets were cleared, water and food distributed, and families reunited. Children played cautiously, citizens worked together, and soldiers patrolled with confidence. The galaxy, which had ignored their cries, now watched with surprise. Humans had arrived where no one else would, changed the course of war, and shown that even the smallest worlds could survive when someone answered the call. In the quiet moments, Alara reflected on everything that had happened. Humans had come not for glory, not for politics, not for gain. They had come because they remembered what it was like to be ignored, to face extinction alone. They had answered the call with courage, skill, and sacrifice. Their presence had cost lives, energy, and time, but the result was survival and hope. For Lyrian, it was more than victory, it was a rebirth. As the humans prepared to depart, children waved, soldiers saluted, and citizens whispered their gratitude. John Carter, Lisa Brown, Maria Lopez, Alex Turner, and Ethan Cole moved quietly among the people, acknowledging the thanks without pride. They had come because someone had to. That was enough for them. Their task was complete, but the lesson endured. When the galaxy turns away, there is a world that will answer. A world that will fight, teach, and survive. A world that refuses to ignore a call for help. And so Lyrian survived, transformed forever. The galaxy had witnessed something remarkable. A world saved not by politics, treaties, or alliances, but by a people who had faced their own harsh world, who had chosen to act when no one else would. Humanity left behind more than security. They left courage, resilience, and hope. And Lyrian, once abandoned, now stood alive and unbroken, knowing that when the call came, someone would always answer, even when the galaxy was silent.